This is a quick update for the members in the chat room that were not able to attend today's coaching chat room session. These are the last few trades that we executed. It is currently 9 a.m. Eastern Time. It is Thursday, October 12th. So a quick review for coaching students that were not in the chat room today. One of the trades that I had called, it was a short-term trade. It was something that looked like it was breaking out of this resistance for the week so far, and this one didn't really go very far. I mean, it hit about 20 pips, and I had considered taking about 20 pips profit, and it immediately pulled back on this trade. It was something going on with the platforms too, but I know that a couple of the members in the chat room didn't see exactly what I was seeing when I was looking at MetaTrader. Again, we use a different trading platform. Coaching students, you can execute the trades off of the MetaTrader 4 platform, but we use a different chart program. A chart program that's much more reliable than MetaTrader. MetaTrader is notorious just for allowing brokers to manipulate price. But I'm not even going to go there. So we talk about that in the chat room. We have our little discussions. It's not conspiracy theory type of things. It's stuff that's standard. I mean, it's behavior that brokers have been able to get away with since the beginning of time. I mean, if brokers can get away with stuff, they will. So in that case, that's exactly what we were seeing this morning with that particular trade and that spike. But either way, it rolled over, and then I closed the trade with a 20 pip loss on the pound dollar. This is the 1 hour time. I'm sorry, this is the pound yen. The pound yen. We refer to this one as the beast in the chat room because it can move so fast and so far. Now, this is a good opportunity for us to talk about the continuation breakout trades because we had one here which was a reversal, and the entry here that I called in the chat room was 148.40. Now, if you're following along with the if you're watching this and you're not a member of the chat room and you're following along with some of the videos as I talk about the structure of some of these trades, the continuation breakout trade is different than the HL30. The HL30 is trading off of the previous day support or resistance, and it is basically a pullback. It's like a short-term, a small reversal. Profit targets are fixed. Stop loss is fixed on that particular trade. We always know exactly what we're doing when we find the confirmation for an HL30. And just the same with a continuation breakout trade, we do the same things. We have a fixed entry, a fixed stop, and a fixed take profit level. On occasion, though, and this is one of the reasons why it's such a valuable opportunity to be in the chat room to trade with me, because I'm executing these trades with my coaching students side by side. I'm using my microphone. I'm talking just like I am now in the chat room, showing them my charts and saying, okay, this is what I think we should be doing. This is why I'm doing it. And then everybody gets to participate. So this trade here with the the pound yen, it was a opportunity to sell a continuation breakout trade with a specific entry. The entry was at 148.40. Now, you'll notice there on the charts, you can see that the target was 147.40. Now, why was this one not 150 points or 250 points? Because I talk about specific take profit levels for each one of these techniques. When we trade the continuation breakout trade on the euro dollar, pound dollar, dollar yen, dollar Swiss, Australian dollar, dollar Canadian, when we trade the continuation breakout trade on the 1 hour time frame for those currency pairs, it's a 55 pip target using a 55 pip stop loss. We very rarely, even if a trade goes bad, I can detect that it's going bad, so I don't need to let price hit my 55 pip stop loss. I can close the trade minus 27, minus 32 pips, because I can see that something's wrong. Now, when we trade and execute the continuation breakout trade on the pound yen, it's a 150 pip first take profit level, and then the final target is 250 pips. And very often when we get into a trade, if there's nothing to obstruct, nothing to block, there's no previous support or resistance in the direction that we're trading it into, if there's nothing that's going to get in the way, then we can pretty much safely hold the pound yen to that 250 pip take profit level. Obviously, it's going to take some time. There are times when the market's moving for whatever reason. Economic data, political statements, some kind of geo event that's having an impact on a particular currency pair, specifically the pound yen, sometimes it's going to move fast and maybe it'll hit a 250 pip take profit level in 3 hours. It can and has happened. This is the same technique that I've executed since I developed this continuation breakout trade strategy. Back in 2007, when I first started my very first open to the public chat room, I had one private that was through instant message on Yahoo, but when I opened up my chat room to the public with an internet website, this is the same technique. In 2008, 2009, when the global financial meltdown started to really heat up and accelerate, we were executing the same strategy on this pair, and sometimes we were getting 2 and 3 continuation breakout trades on the pound yen as that currency, as the whole, the whole trade was unwinding with the dollar yen. I mean, everything was changing drastically. So it wasn't uncommon for us to see 3 continuation breakout trades that would all hit the 250 pip take profit level within a matter of several hours, sometimes 8 hours, sometimes 4 hours, sometimes 12 hours. But it was pretty consistent. And it's the same thing. I mean, the trade works out consistently every single time as long as you identify the right entry, you're using the right stop, all of that. As long as everything's in place, you're going to do okay. Now, the reason that we took a 100 pip take profit level on this trade is because if you look right over here, there's the low of the week right here. This is support. Price was going to run into this support level. And I talk about this all of the time. You see me talk about it in my videos where we're talking about continuation breakout trades. And if there's the decision to scale out of a trade, because sometimes, for example, with a continuation breakout trade, sometimes we will scale out of the trade. It's important to. We still get the appropriate signals. Everything confirms. The dollar's moving in a certain way, if it's like a trade on the euro dollar, but it seems to be running into, in this case, for example, like this one, into support, and we're trading it down, we want to make sure that we lock in some profits if the final take profit level is too close to that support level or before the support level, because it might not hit. It could, in this case, as you know, and I say this every day, support and resistance isn't always going to be an exact number. Sometimes it is, but it's not always going to be. Sometimes it's a pocket or a range of support and resistance. You can go back and you can look over here with the crosshairs. Where's price holding here? You can go back over here to this price swing low. You can go over here to this price swing low. We can move the crosshairs around and we can see what's holding up the candle bodies. There's a lot of different pieces of information that we need to take into consideration when we're looking for areas of support or resistance. I refer to them as pockets of support or resistance because, again, they're not always going to be precise exact numbers. Price isn't going to come down here and hit this low right here at 146 point, what do we got there, 94 approximately. Exactly. It could, sometimes it does, but it's not always going to do that. Sometimes it'll come pretty close to it, turn around, and go back the opposite direction. So again, it's a really good reason to scale out of the trade. Now, 100 pips on this trade, even before, when normally it would be a 150 pip take profit first target, again, it was very important to do that because of this support low over here. It was just too close. And 100 pips, that was perfect. If this range would have been tighter, if this support low would have been, let's say, at 147.40 or 50 or something like that, then I probably would have scaled out on this trade at the first 50 pips or 80 pips. That's the difference here. That's why you're seeing something very different. So it's very important that if you are a coaching student, and you're going through my coaching course and you're executing these continuation breakout trades, these are the variables. These are the things that you need to be aware of. If you didn't make the chat room today, this is why we changed the take profit level. I know a lot of people are going to say, well, why didn't we take profits at the first 150 and then scale out there and then let the remaining half of the position go to 250 pips? Again, it is because there was support right there in front of our trade because we were selling it. If everything would have been far away, if the next support level would have been another 200, 300 pips below, then I wouldn't have worried so much about the possibility of scaling out at the first 100 pips. It would have been the first 150 pips to scale out and then 250 pips. And if everything looked good, it's possible that I would have mentioned in the chat room There's probably no reason to really scale out at the first 150. Let's go ahead and hold for the 250. Sometimes that we get that opportunity. It doesn't always happen. So that's the thing you've always got to remember. You always have to remember, you always have to be saying these things in your mind. Just because it looked a certain way today doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to look just like that the next time we execute these trades. There's always these little variables, these little things that will take place and happen throughout the week, throughout the day, throughout the month, all of the time. It's always going to be just a little bit different, but it's the structure that we're always looking to identify and confirm. So this was our continuation breakout trade on the pound yen. So I mentioned that earlier during the Asian session, I had a trade that failed minus 20 pips. That's it. It was just a minus 20 pip trade. And then I was able to identify this one and called out this one in the coaching chat room. So we earned 100 pips here. Now we did for the most part the same thing here with the pound dollar. This is the pound dollar, another continuation breakout trade. The entry here that I called out was 1.3004, and we took profits here at 1.3050. Now this one was a little bit different because I had considered scaling out and locking in some profits as it was approaching that 80 level, and there's a pocket of support right here. Right there, that spike low right there is at 73. So I considered closing and locking in some profits at 80, which is a psychological level. Now I will use psychological levels. This is a little bit different than what we saw on the pound yen. This is the pound dollar. The reason that things were going to be smaller as far as to take profit levels or looking at psychological levels for possible targets, again, it's because price was running into this area of support, this pocket of support right here. And I wasn't too sure how it was going to move. But when it eventually closed, we held onto that candle as we were into the trade. And when it closed below this support level, that gave me an additional form of confirmation to hold on to the trade to that 55 pip take profit level, approximately 55 pips. The 50 was the psychological level target that I used here on this trade. So the final take profit level, and we only used one profit target on this one, was 1.3150. So you can see how there is a time when, even though I talk about how structured the trades and the techniques are as far as entry, take profit, and stop loss, there are times you need to take into consideration that you should probably scale out of the trade or get ready to scale out of the trade. You need to manage these positions. It's extremely valuable to be in the chat room with me because as all of this is unfolding, I'm explaining exactly why I'm sort of not necessarily changing the plan or the details of the trade. It's still the same entry, still the same take profit level, still the same stop loss. But in a situation like this, we have to protect ourselves. If there is some money to be made there, but we're looking at a relatively new or newer reversal, we have to prepare for the possibility that it may not go too far. It might just be a pullback to an old support level and then bounce. So you have to take these things into consideration. What are we looking at? How can we protect our profits? How can we prevent a winning trade when we're up some money from turning into a losing trade? These are some of the things that need to be in place when you're managing your trade positions, when you're trying to make money every day. All of that has to be in place. Let me review one final trade here. Now, we also trade Bitcoin. I trade Bitcoin with the Forex trade copier, the best Forex trade copier. The trades, obviously, if we're going to scale out with the trade copier, you're only going to get the first target. When you're in the chat room with me and I'm calling out these trades live with you, if you are going to trade some of these currency pairs or Bitcoin with me, I'm going to walk you through exactly what I'm doing. With Bitcoin, I use the same basic trade strategies. But for the most part, I'm either going to use a Tech 1 trade. I really don't like to trade the HL30 on Bitcoin on the 30-minute. So I'm going to be focusing in on breakouts, usually when there's activity. So there's going to be a couple of days, maybe a few days, maybe even on occasion a week where I might not trade Bitcoin just because it's too choppy. Things are just, there's all kind. You see it. I'm sure you see it. You see it on Facebook. You see it on Twitter. There's all this speculation about how they're going to wipe out Bitcoin, and then that's 1 week, and it will manipulate price around, and everybody's either getting in or getting out. And then all of a sudden the following week or a week later, there's all this positive talk about Bitcoin, about who's going to accept it, the government's going to allow it. They're considering this, considering that. There's just all kinds of talk. There's so much manipulation with Bitcoin. So you really have to be careful. So I'm extremely selective with my trades with Bitcoin. And one of the most reliable and consistently profitable trade techniques that I use is the continuation breakout trade. I don't get the continuation breakout trade as much as obviously a small short-term reversal like the HL30 and things like that. But when the continuation breakout trade sets up, it is extremely profitable, very predictive. It puts me in the path of the breakout, and I can trade that and execute the continuation breakout trade with confidence. As you saw in the last two currency pairs that I just showed you, the pound yen and the pound dollar, those continuation breakout trades work out perfect. I mean, they repeat over and over again. You don't get them every day. So because it's the most safest and reliable trade technique that I developed and use, I will almost always trade, for the most part, the continuation breakout trade on the Bitcoin dollar. That's what I'm looking for. Again, I'll trade Tech 1 trades and maybe T2 patterns. And for those of you that are coaching students, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Those are techniques that I developed. But this was a continuation breakout trade here on Bitcoin. This is the 1 hour time frame. So I'm going to be watching the 30-minute on the Bitcoin, just like I do with any other currency pair. I watch the 1 hour, the 4 hour, and the daily. So this one here, this was the continuation breakout trade this morning, a few hours ago. The entry was at 50.18 approximately. So again, I'm going to be waiting and giving it that 3-pip entry, that 3-pip move, letting price move around, making sure that I've got confirmation, all of that, everything, all the indicators. Now, I am using another indicator that you can see here. I'll talk about that in another video, but I am using all 3 indicators: the Bollinger Bands, the CCI, and the MACD. Volume, if you can see volume. So, for example, I mentioned that we use a different charting program with all my coaching students. All my coaching students use a more reliable, robust charting program that I've been using for years and years and years. You can execute the trade on MetaTrader 4 platform if you want, but having the ability to see volume with futures, when we're trading yen or any kind of yen cross, you want to be able to see the yen futures, just yen futures. I talk about that. You've probably seen this on some of my videos on the website, how we're using yen futures to confirm the dollar yen trades or some of the yen crosses. It's extremely important to take a quick look at volume. Volume is going to give you or help to give you a better sense of confirmation when you see these breakouts that there's going to be a continued follow through on these moves. So in this one, for Bitcoin dollar, I'm going to use psychological levels a lot. Now, when we see breakouts like this one will cover 100 pips or 50 pips pretty quick, even 250 pips pretty quickly. Again, you don't get them all the time, and you can see how long I had to wait. This is a 1 hour chart on Bitcoin dollar. You can see how long I had to wait with this consolidation range. But this is my consolidation range. This is exactly what we were talking about in the chat room yesterday, the day before, and we had this consolidation range set up, me and my coaching students waiting for this breakout, those who wanted to trade Bitcoin dollar. So there was no mistake when this thing finally closed. Now, I know how tempting it is because a lot of people do this, and they ask me in the chat room, new coaching students, should we get in when price is taking out that high? Yes, I have a technique called the T3 pattern, and it is an opportunity to get into a trade as price is taking out the high without waiting for the candle to close. That's called the T3. I don't execute it that much. There are some very specific rules behind it, but the second safest way to trade it, not the second, it's probably the primary way that I'm going to usually be looking at it. If I can't confirm that it's a T3, then I'm going to wait for price to close on that 1 hour candle, giving me that continuation breakout trade. As you know, with the continuation breakout trade, I always have to wait for the candles to close. This is something that I teach every one of my coaching students. It changed my trading. When I first started trading in 2001, I joined a lot of chat rooms. I'm going to give you a brief story here. If you're interested and you're listening this far, I'm sure you probably, will resonate, what I'm saying. A lot of the experiences that I have, they'll touch you because you've gone through these, experiences yourself. But I joined a lot of chat rooms in 2001, and it was like, I couldn't believe it that almost every time these chat room moderators would see price taking out a resistance level, they would immediately tell everybody to buy, but they didn't have any confirmation. They weren't waiting. It was just, the minute price would push through a high, they would say, okay, let's just buy it. And you probably know exactly where I'm going with this story. Within just a matter of 15, 20, 30 minutes, price might move up a little bit, and then he wouldn't tell us where to take profits. We didn't know where to take profits. We didn't have a take profit level. It was just like basically scalping or taking whatever you saw was in your trading platform. But before that candle would close, it would pull back down, and then it would reverse and come right back down and stay inside a consolidation for the next 24 hours or 12 hours. And then everybody in the chat room would get stopped out. And I hated that. There was like no structure to how it was working. That's what drove me to figure out my first trade technique, which was the continuation breakout trade. What I was trying to do was, because I kept getting myself in that situation with a lot of these chat room moderators, I was trying to figure out a way to stop that from happening. So I tested it out looking at closed. I didn't actually look at closed candles. I was just looking at 30-minute charts, looking at 1-hour charts, trying to figure out something that made sense. And what I found was that when I was going through my charts on the weekends, the prices already stopped, the servers are closed on the brokers, they turn them off, and there isn't any live data feed, so you can only look at closed completed candles. And what I did with this charting program that I was using at the time is I was just moving one candle at a time, and I would start on Sunday night until Friday when the market would close, and I would basically just review it. So if, in this instance, if I was looking at a chart like this one and I was reviewing everything, I would notice that when this candle closed, if I would have waited for this candle to close, it would have continued to move, and all I could see was closed completed candles. That's what I always talk about, closed completed candles. But other times you'll see that if it was like a head fake or something where it just spiked through one last push and then sold off and then closed below that resistance level, well, then I would have never gone long. That would have been that head fake, and I would have stayed out of trouble and looked for another opportunity to either sell it or go short if it came down here and closed below this support level. And that would happen over and over again. But I could see that only as a result of using closed completed candles. So whether you're using a 15-minute chart to execute your trades, and that's your trading system, or a 30-minute, or a 1-hour, or a 4-hour, it doesn't really matter. You're going to do better. It's important to pay attention to the closed completed candles. I know how tempting it is to want to get into the trade as it's taking out that high, thinking to yourself, okay, well, it's already moved. There's a high of 49.21, and here it is closing at about 50, or the 5,020 or the 5,018 or 10 level. I've already given up a lot of profit. I need some of that. I just sat here and watched it. Yes, you sometimes have to sit there and watch it. That's the best way to do it. Sometimes that's all you're going to get, and that's all it's going to do, and it stops. So you stay out of getting into a trade if you don't understand it. The key is, if you don't have a method or a trading technique to get you into the trade that's reliable as it's taking out that high to confirm that it's going to continue to go higher, then stay away from it. The only other thing is that if I can't confirm that it's going to go higher as it's taking out that resistance, which would be the T3 pattern, again, in this instance, I didn't have 100% confirmation that this was actually going to be a T3. The T3 pattern or that technique doesn't develop all that often. It's something that doesn't come around every day. I have to wait for it, and everything has to line up perfectly as far as the confirmation, or I stay away from it. And the only thing I can do at that point is wait for the continuation breakout trade technique to develop, which is a closed completed candle above resistance. So that's what we're doing here with this one. This one's very different. And again, with Bitcoin dollar, I'm almost always going to trade a continuation breakout trade because it is the safest and the most reliable way. But believe me, if it is a breakout of a consolidation range, and it's a breakout and developing a new trend direction, at least for the day, whether it continues, we don't know. We're just going to keep looking for another opportunity. But as far as what we're doing today for day trading, this was perfect. There was our first take profit level at 5100. That's a psychological level. And the next level was 5150. It did go higher than that. It went to 52, is where it's sitting right now, 5200. But again, with the distance that it already covered, we're day trading. We've already made a hell of a lot of money on this one. That's quite a distance from 5018 entry to a take profit level of 5100. Now, when it approaches these take profit levels, the first target, the second target, I am always in my chat room with my microphone telling all of my coaching students that are executing these trades with me, okay, guys, everyone, gentlemen, ladies, everybody in the chat room, it's approaching 5100. This is our first take profit level. I'm going to lock in profits here. This is exactly what I tell them. And then I say, and our second target is still 5150. or 5200 if that's what the case was. But today it was just 5150. We've already covered quite a distance here. That's exactly what my coaching chat room is all about. I tell you everything that's going on. If this would have changed, if I would have locked in profits here at 5100 and thought for some reason that something was going on here and it was going to reverse and come back down, I would have told all of my coaching students that. I want them to know. It's just like basically sitting next to me. If you go through my coaching course and you're sitting in the chat room with me, it's basically like sitting next to me side by side. So I'm analyzing this. I'm looking at data. I'm looking at information, news reports, whatever it is that I can to determine, if we're in the right trade, if we can expect it to continue to go further. I'm looking at futures, data. I'm sharing all of this information with my coaching students so that they can determine and eventually learn how to execute these trades just like I'm doing it, on their own. That's the goal, is that eventually you're going to be able to do all of this on your own, and you're not going to be worried about the trades. I mean, there's nothing to worry about. We know what we're doing. We have these tools, which are these different trade techniques that we use every single day, and they produce profits just like this every single day. So the chat room is really where you're going to get all of that experience. I've been trading since 2001, and I trade every day since 2001. Occasionally, I'll take some breaks, but even when I'm taking breaks or vacations, I can't resist. I have to look at the charts, just like you and everybody else, I think, that does it. It's irresistible. It's just something that I love. It's a passion of mine. Now, in the next update, we're going to talk about some other trades that we've had open for a few days now. They're doing just fine. We're going to look at the dollar. We're going to look at the daily chart for the dollar to try to get some other take profit levels that are going to help us complete the rest of this week on our trades for the major Forex pairs. And as far as getting into another trade with this one, again, when this one is over with, when I think that it's pretty much topped out and we've closed in and I'm flat this pair, I will tell everybody in the chat room I'm flat this pair, so I'm done with it. I'm going to be looking for another trade opportunity. It is very possible that it could go back up. Let's take a look at the 4-hour chart here. The 4-hour chart, you can see it really isn't going to give me any additional information. These are more continuation breakout trades that we've taken. You can see here, this is the 4-hour chart, Bitcoin dollar. More continuation trades as it continues along this upward path. So let's take a look at the daily time frame. So the daily time frame right now where it's at has finally taken out that high back in August. Remember, we were trading these continuation breakout trades at the beginning of August in the chat room. So these, we were making like this one here, I believe was like over 700 pips. Some of the coaching students were, points. My coaching students were making on this one here, and I actually executed a few of these back in August with the trade copier. So again, with the trade copier, what you're going to get in a situation like this is the first take profit level. I cannot scale out of a position with the trade copier. The trade copier, the way it's set up and developed, it's created, I can't scale it out because first of all, everybody's using a different broker. So some brokers don't allow you to scale out. You're going to have to open up two lots on the same trade at the same entry. You're just going to have to click buy 2 times, at 50.18 on this one, for example. And then you'll close the first lot at the first take profit level. And then once it hits that first take profit level, you'll set it you'll move the stop loss to a break-even stop to protect the profits on the first lot, just in case that second target doesn't get hit. But if it hits that second target and it keeps going, well, then you've made a lot of money. If you've got 2 lots, you close both lots, and you've made a lot of money as a result of that. But again, with the trade copier, I can't do that because everybody's using a different broker. What happens if I tried to scale out of the trade using the trade copier on a platform like MetaTrader? If I'm using a broker that allows me to scale out, first of all, it's going to close the trade. So if you got in at 50.18 with the trade copier and I took profits here at 5100, and then set it at 5150, what it does to everybody's platform is it closes that trade completely and then reopens a brand new trade at 5100. And that won't make any sense because if the second target doesn't hit and it comes back down, then it just turns it into a failed trade. So you just give back all the profits. It won't lock in the profits. That's why I can't scale out. That's why I'm always taking one lot to one take profit target every single time with the trade copier. So the results are less, obviously. The trade copier, you have to look at it in the sense of there's a hierarchy of different Forex services that you can get. First of all, you can get email alerts that are sent to you once a day. And, it's basically, even if it is somebody that's actually live physically looking at the charts, they're assessing the possibilities, and they can't tell you what's going to happen in 12 hours or 8 hours. Things can change just with economic data 4 hours later. So the results of what you're going to get out of an email alert service, you know, I don't even, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, the results, they're going to be okay. You might make some money if you're working with somebody that's really good at analyzing the charts, but most of those trades aren't going to either hit their targets or even give you an entry. I mean, things can change. And then the next level up would be like a trade copier service, which is what I offer with the Best Forex Trade Copier. That's a good service. You're going to make 3, 4, 500 pips, maybe 1,000 pips on a really good month. But if you really want to make 5,000, 10,000, 20, $30,000 a month, depending on, of course, the amount of capital that you have. This is, again, all coming down to the amount of capital. Obviously, you're not going to make $30,000 a month being in my chat room as a coaching student when you have a $1,000 trading account. That's not going to happen. Now, most of my coaching students, they've got accounts that have, $15,000, $20,000, $35,000, $55,000, $75,000 or more, and that's what that's the trading account. That's the capital that they're using to fulfill some of these trading opportunities. It's a different trading environment. This is for, coaching students. That whole coaching program is for somebody that's going to be building a business and is trading from home, trading from an office, dedicated. This is what they do every day. This is what they're doing for their living exclusively. They're not working a full-time job and then coming home and trying to find some trades on the side. So very, very different trading environment. So that's really the best way to get the most hands-on approach. I keep looking at a couple of other charts here just in case we get an opportunity on another trade. But again, as I mentioned, for coaching students that missed this morning's chat room session, this video will serve as sort of an educational video to, I'm going to go back to those charts on the pound dollar and then the pound yen. This is the pound yen. So we've got this is a 4-hour chart on the pound yen. I'll go over here to the initial chart. Whether or not this move is over with to the downside, I don't think so. It could be. That hammer doesn't necessarily, or hammer looking candle pattern here doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to stop. I mean, how many times do we see, shooting stars or hammers, and it doesn't always predict the top. Sometimes it'll turn around and just go right back up and blow out that, that hammer or hanging man or whatever it is that you're looking at, the hammer to the downside, whatever it is, and it'll just take it right out and keep going. So it is possible that it could make another move and take out that low from an hour ago. But at this point, we're pretty much flat with this currency pair. There's no reason to trade it right into that support level. We'll get another opportunity. If price eventually closes below this week's low here on the pound yen, then it could possibly trigger another continuation breakout trade. And if it's wide open to the downside, let's go to the 4-hour chart just in case. If it's wide open to the downside and that's the support level and it triggers even here on a 4-hour chart, a continuation breakout trade, then we've got all the way down to this support level here below 141. So we've got a long ways to go. So in this case, in this instance, if we get one, we could potentially see a 250 pip take profit target again. To the downside. This is, in a downtrend. It is taking out these lows. So it could be a really good trading opportunity. But we'll assess all of that this evening in the daily update when I do that after the 5 o'clock rollover.